Okay, this one's going to be a bit different. It's more of a vlog and less of a skit or sketch or anything. And considering the circumstances that the nation is in, I think you can understand. This is going to be a very informal vlog. I'm not scripted or anything, so it's just me spewing a stream of consciousness and remarking on the situation this country is in right now. Queen Elizabeth II of House Windsor passed away yesterday on the 8th of August, Thursday, 2022. She had reigned for 70 years and she lived to the good old age of 96. I'm going to get this right off the bat. I'm not pro-monarchy, but at the same time, I'm not anti-monarchy. I'm not pro-Republican or anything. Okay, I used to be pro-monarchy to an extent, in that I respected the idea of a constitutional monarch and who didn't interfere with anything but was just there, so we didn't end up with a republic or anything. But in later years, as I've turned more towards the left, I've come to understand that there's a lot of money being used with... There's a lot of money in Buckingham Palace and with the monarchy and the House of Windsor and everything. I mean, I understand that it brings in an income, and there is an income that it brings in, like with tourism and everything, but practically for this country to keep its head above the water, excuse my figurative speech there, I hope there's a few neurodiverse people listening to this, because yes, I am actually autistic and I want to share this with everyone that I can, even though I've only got a handful of subscribers. But that aside, okay, where was I? Okay, I mean, I've got nothing against the monarchy, but what I do have a problem with is how money is being spent in this country and how it is being wasted, and how we are always under the threat of poverty, especially now in this cost of living crisis. And I'm worried about how people are going to cope. I'm worried about how I'm going to cope. I mean, I've got a steady wage. I'm not big wage or anything. I don't get monetized for this. This is just my opinion, and I'm doing this out of work hours. And but there are people out there struggling. There are going to be pensioners out there struggling with heating bills, etc. When the cost of everything goes up, and there's a number of factors to put into this. The fallout from Brexit, the war in Ukraine, the everyone's on the brink of recession. It's not just Britain; it's it's most of the Western nations, even the Eastern nations like China. They're struggling, especially with COVID, and we've just come out of a pandemic, and we're technically still in one. But that aside, okay, people are struggling. Okay, and I'm not speaking against the Queen or anything, because she's done a lot for this country. I will go so far as to say that she has shown more dignity and respect and pride than most of our political leaders, especially right now. For example, when her husband, Prince Philip, passed away, she was one of the chief mourners at his memorial. I don't know if it was his memorial or funeral or whatever, but there was just this image of her sitting alone in the pew of a cathedral, and it was just her. Meanwhile, Boris Johnson was at number 10 having a party, while the rest of us were in lockdown. and I don't have a sense of humour about this shit, okay? My mum died from COVID. I lost her last February. And I never got to spend that last Christmas with her because Boris had us under lockdown. And of course he had a garden party. And this is one of the main reasons I absolutely despise that man. I absolutely despise Boris Johnson. And he refused to live by example, whereas the late Queen, she did. She sacrificed. So, for that alone, she will forever have my respect. And I will not take that away from her. And neither should anyone else. With that being said, a state funeral at a time of economic uncertainty, I mean, I think she probably deserves one, considering she was our head of state for so long and she showed more dignity than most political leaders. But is it needed? Do we really need it? I'm not sure we do. I don't know. We should honour her memory, okay? We need time to grieve. This country needs time to grieve. Even if you didn't like her, she's been a suitable figurehead for this nation. She's never done anything wrong against me personally. I mean, you could go into like Prince Andrew and the whole Epstein case of what he did with underage girls, etc. But okay, at the same time, that's her son, so of course she's going to bail him out. I don't know if she used taxpayers' money or her own money, but either way, that doesn't feel right to us. But she's a mother, and that's her son. And as much as we despise him, and I really hope he doesn't come back into the public consciousness anymore, I hope he just stands aside and realises that you've made an arse of yourself. You've disgraced the crown. Okay, you need to step aside and you've got to reevaluate yourself and answer to what happened with Jeffrey Epstein and all that. I won't go into that too much. So, yeah, the monarchy hasn't been the best use of money, especially now that we're at a time of uncertainty. So, I was going to do a vlog or an Aspie hyena video earlier this year during the, was it the Platinum or the Diamond Jubilee? Please tell me in the comments or afterwards. Yeah, I meant to do a video on that, but I needed to get the right images and edit it, and at the time I've been very busy lately writing a novella. Or it's a bit hard to explain. Look, I'm a writer. I write fiction. I'm not published yet, but I really hope to be in the near future, and I feel as close to it as I ever have been because I am so near completing one piece of work. So I have been concentrating on that and neglecting my duties on YouTube, even though I've only got a handful of subscribers. So, and I did lose one subscriber, so I can only apologise for taking up so much time between this video and the last. I did mean to do a couple, and I do have a few in the pipeline. So that aside, okay. This was a video during the Platinum Diamond Jubilee, I think it was, and I just didn't have time to finish it. I didn't have the free time. Things kept coming up. I apologise, but I'm also kind of glad I didn't, considering the situation we're in now. I actually kind of wish I did, because I had I think I had a funny gag at the end of it about, what if we were a republic instead? What if we had President Boris? Yeah, okay. Just that image alone would make anyone pro-monarchy, saying, okay, we'd rather have a constitutional monarch who doesn't do anything but is just a figurehead, blah, blah, blah. And then we have elected state officials, prime ministers, etc., and members of parliament who, again, they don't have that much power. They only have a certain amount of power because the Queen owns everything, and they can't change anything absolutely with emergency powers, or like with Donald Trump did with executive orders. So where it's not as, the parliament is not as powerful as a republic. And that's the key point I wanted to get across in that vlog, which unfortunately I never finished or barely even started. There were a few other things I wanted to add into that vlog about Boris being this irresponsible leader who likes the power and the authority, but doesn't want the responsibility. It's similar to how Prince Andrew abused his position of status to exploit younger women. And only in the sense of Boris, he neglected his duties while in power, when he's supposed to be organising the country and sorting out the economy and protecting our borders, etc., etc. Whereas Prince Andrew is just another cog in a institutional monarchy that is really doesn't really hold any practical power over us, except maybe cost us, but then again they also bring in income. So nonetheless, it would be, I would admire the monarchy more if they were more responsible with their status and with their money and goods that could be spent on, say, feeding people in poverty, or helping get people into healthcare and everything. Even though we've got an NHS, a lot of us are worried about it being privatised, because Tory governments, all they seem to want to do is privatise everything, sell off anything of value that we have just to make a profit. And honestly, I think they'd sell their own mothers just to make some money. That is how I see the Tories, and it's one of the reasons I will never vote for them. I should add that I have voted Tory in the past, as a young adult, but mainly that's because I grew up at the time when Tony Blair got us into Iraq, and yeah, just bad memories of that, and how he kept apologising for Britain's colonial past while committing atrocities in the Middle East and leading to the problems that we have today. So, you know, this is not just me being anti-Tory propaganda or anything, because, I mean, I have voted Tory before, but I'm not going to again, thanks to Boris. It's part of my growing up process, and I still have bad memories of when Tony Blair was in power and the damage the Labour Party did. I don't know who I'm going to vote for in the future. But this is also to the benefit of the monarchy, of having a government that does not have absolute power, where we do not have a leader who can sign executive orders. You know, so we're never going to have a President Donald Trump or a President Boris or a President anything, I hope. No, because we don't want someone with that much power. There has to be a limit. And I think having a constitutional monarchy, not an institutional, like I said, but a constitutional one, a figurehead, that kind of brings in the balance. So part of the idea of the vlog was to that, yes, there are negatives to having a monarchy, which seems archaic in the modern era, but there are also benefits, especially when politicians are corrupt and you don't want to elect someone with absolute power if they're going to be irresponsible with that power, because, you know, like with Spider-Man, great power comes with great responsibility. That's a maxim for anyone in a position of authority. And credit to the Queen, she showed that restraint for the most part. She made mistakes, I'm pretty sure she did. She may have committed sins or done things she regretted later in life, but I don't know. I didn't know her. I was never personal with her. I'd seen her a couple of times in public, but otherwise I didn't know the woman. She was just in the position of power. She was just there when I was born. And that's where a lot of us are. A lot of millennials and Zoomers, if you prefer to call yourselves that, Generation Zs. I mean, we weren't there during the Mau Mau uprising. We didn't see the atrocities committed by British armed forces, and they did commit some heinous acts. And yeah, I think a lot of them deserve repatriation and everything. But then again, the Queen had just inherited the throne. She did not order to go in there, and this is a whole other can of worms. Pardon the pardon my figure of speech, but this is. I could go into so many different ways with the Queen and with monarchy and past sins of each nation. Like, no nation, I don't think, is ever going to have a clean slate. We've all got a dirty past, and even those who fight against colonialism commit atrocities as well. Not that it excuses Britain's atrocities, but the Queen only has so much to do with it. And she does not have the power to say stop. She does not have the wit to sign an executive order to overhaul Parliament, because we do not have an absolute monarchy. We abolished that back in the Stuart era, where with Charles I losing his head. And the hypocrisy is still there. Tony Blair apologising for past atrocities while committing atrocities himself and getting us into an illegal war which cost countless lives in Iraq and everywhere, caused the rise of ISIS and just made Britain an unsafe place, made the world unsafe. The Queen didn't order anything on that. Maybe she should have done, but she'd have been called out for that and saying it's a dereliction of her duty. And her duty was to serve us, to be the figurehead, not to interfere in politics. We elect the leaders. The leaders should be held accountable. Unfortunately, they're not. They've just gotten worse and less accountable and less democratic. And it's not just in Britain, it's everywhere. In the Middle East, in Africa, in the States. You know, looking at you, Donald, mate, you've got a lot to answer for. You shouldn't have nicked them documents. China is really authoritarian. Russia is run by an absolute fruitcake. The Queen's not perfect, but she's a hell of a lot better than some of the alternatives we've got around the world, and even some of the leaders we've elected. Looking at you, Boris. I don't know if she deserves a state funeral. Well, I think she does. I believe she does. She deserves a state funeral. But can we afford it? I don't know. But I also want to go on to the next point. Then this is the important one. Well, my final point actually. I don't want to run this too long, but I really wanted to state this, okay? As I've said, I've gone more to the left. I used to consider myself fairly conservative, not a Tory voter, just a young man with conservative values, unlike the rest of his generation who were leaning more towards the left. But I've been leaning more towards the left in the last couple of years myself, especially during lockdown, and when I have seen the corruption and the absolute just how careless and callous Boris Johnson can be. And there's no defence on the guy, okay? I've got nothing to defend him with, and I don't want to defend him. I despise him and the way he behaved during lockdown, and it was nearly a whole year, it was nearly a year after the pandemic started, after lockdown was first announced, when my mum passed. And since March 2020, I never hugged her. And I never got the opportunity to do so again. And I will forever hold that against him. But at the same time, I won't celebrate his death like just about everyone on the left did when Margaret Thatcher died. I mean, yeah, she did horrible things, or she could be callous. Don't know if she was a Boris Johnson kind, but yeah, someone's death. You don't celebrate someone's death. And I have seen some atrocious, absolutely vile shit on Twitter. And I'm not mincing my words here, excuse the bad language, but there are some... God, bloody hell. I'm not even going to read them out. You don't talk about someone who died like that, okay? Even if you despise them, if you're on the left, you're the politics of compassion, right? Jeremy Corbyn made a compassionate tweet about the passing of the Queen, okay? Even though I don't know if he was anti-monarchy or whatever, I mean, he's very much to the left. He's about as left-wing as a mainstream politician can get. And I think that was a good example of if he is anti-monarchy, that's a good example of how you should behave, how you should speak your mind during such a tragic scenario. But that hasn't been the example of people on the left on Twitter. And I cannot believe I am saying this, but there are some alt-right fruitcakes, absolute scum, and just all these... No, like that Paul Joseph Watson from Prison Planet, the Infowars guy. I mean, that's a man whose politics is just vile. And you know what? I can't believe I'm saying this. He tweeted... His tweets were more compassionate than half the left-leaning Twitter users on the social media. I can't believe I've said that. I've actually given credit to this very thinly closeted racist individual, this absolute scumbag. And he's shown more compassion to a woman passing than than most left, than a lot of the left. Oh my God. I don't even know if I want to publish this, but I've just got to say it now. I mean, there are certain left-leaning YouTubers and people on Twitter they have not shown 1 ounce of compassion. And I get it, you don't like the monarchy, fine. You think it's a waste of time. But here's the thing. Queen Elizabeth is not Vladimir Putin. Okay? She's not fucking Adolf Hitler. She may own a monarchy that was colonial at one point, which is now decolonised and become the Commonwealth. And I get it, there's still mistakes being made. But we've only got Britain only has part of a say in it because we don't own the countries anymore. Most of them want independence. They are independent. Most of them want to become republics, or some of them just only want her as a figurehead, and that's fine. I've got nothing against that. But even if I've got a political opponent, I'm not going to celebrate them dying. What the fuck is wrong with people? Why are you celebrating a woman dying? I'm sorry if I've given Paul Joseph Watson credit. I mean, I can't stand the guy, really. He's Britain's answer to Alex Jones, okay? I'm not giving him credit. Or at least I'm trying not to. And this makes... Should I even call them out? Should I call out who has said, who've made very callous, crass remarks about the Queen dying? And yeah, it's... I'm not even going to mention their names. No. Because they know who they are. And I really hope they're listening to this, because I get it. I get why you're the side of the left. You want compassion. You care about the people who are starving and ill and who are not as privileged or as well off. But here's the thing. After you tweet that, after you make remarks about an old woman dying, you lose the moral high ground. And I really hope you're listening to this bit, okay? You've lost the moral high ground. You should not sink to these levels, okay? Even if you despise everything about the crown, okay? You don't tweet that about someone dying. You don't. You want to inspire compassion. You want to say that the left is the political wing. The political wing of compassion is the left. Abide by those principles. Otherwise, you lose the moral high ground. You become worse than your opponents. You lose the right to lecture us on how we should live, or what we should say. Whenever you call someone out for something offensive, okay, you lose that. You prove yourself a hypocrite, right? If you're the politics of kindness, take a leaf out of Jeremy Corbyn's Twitter account, okay? Remember, the Queen is a mother, and a grandmother, and a great-grandmother. Had anyone said that about my mum, or imagine if it was your mother, would you stand by that? No. I'm just disappointed to call myself part of the human race some days. Because I am against the alt-right. I find their politics despicable and evil. I could go into another tangent about how if you go too far to the left, you end up too far to the right. And the common ground is you despise individualism, you are against democracy and freedom of speech. And but that's an entire different vlog. We need more compassion. We don't have to be overly sentimental or sensitive, or we just need a bit of compassion, a bit of understanding. And if you disagree with someone or if you've wronged someone, own up to it, apologise, make amends. And if someone who has wronged you dies or is ill or loses someone, love thy enemy. You love thy neighbour, but also love thy enemy. Prove that you are better than them. Be the better man. Be the better woman. Be the better person. Love thy enemy. Love. Don't hate. Put your hate aside.